Hey there, glad you're here. If your house looks clean at 9 a.m. and like a small tornado hit by 3 p.m., welcome to the club. I used to think I just needed to try harder, declutter more, clean faster, but turns out the mess wasn't the only problem. It was how I thought about my stuff, the guilt, the pressure, the feeling that if I stop moving, everything will fall apart. So today I want to share 9 rules that helped me shift all that. Not just for a tidier home, but for a calmer, lighter headspace too. If that sounds good to you, let's get into it. Rule 1. You don't have to keep something just because it was a gift. Let's just get this one out of the way because I know a lot of us are holding on to things we don't even like just because someone gave them to us. Maybe it was a wedding gift, or something you inherited from a relative you barely knew, or a present you got for your birthday that's been sitting in the back of a cabinet ever since. We tell ourselves, I can't get rid of it. That would be rude. But here's the truth. Keeping something out of guilt doesn't honor the person. It just adds stress to your space. You are not a storage unit for other people's generosity. You're allowed to say, this doesn't fit my life anymore, and let it go with love, not guilt. I kept a crystal vase in a cabinet for 6 years, never used it, didn't like it. Only kept it because I thought I was supposed to. Then one day I donated it, and honestly, I felt lighter just walking back to the car. So if you've been staring at something thinking, well, I can't really get rid of that, ask yourself, am I keeping this out of love or out of obligation? If it's the second one, you already have your answer. And if you're in a season where you just want simple, helpful ideas that actually make home feel smoother, I've got something fun coming up tomorrow. It's a big list of practical things that actually work. So I hope you'll come back for that. Now let's talk about another kind of clutter, the kind that's tied to who you used to be and why that can be the hardest one to let go. Next up is tip 2, and I actually think this one's kind of fun. It's simple, super effective, and honestly, it gives you that little dopamine hit when you need it most. You know that weird feeling where you've been decluttering for days, but it looks like nothing's happened. You filled bags, made donation runs, vacuumed under things, and yet you walk back into the same room and think, why is this still so hard? It's not because you didn't make progress, it's because your brain already adjusted. The mess that used to scream at you, now it's your new normal. That's why it's so important to document what you're doing, even if it feels silly in the moment. Here's the fix, take pictures. Before you start a drawer, a shelf, or even just your coffee table, snap a quick photo. After you declutter it, take another one. And when you feel like you're spinning your wheels later, scroll back through them. Let your eyes remind your brain of all the work you've done. I started doing this during a big kitchen declutter, and I swear it kept me going more than coffee. There were days I felt like I had nothing to show until I looked back and saw that the spice shelf I used to hate, it was now clean labeled and still tidy 2 weeks later. We forget quickly, our brains move fast, but photos let us pause and see progress for what it really is: slow, steady, and worth celebrating. Next, let's talk about the one space in your home that can change everything, even if the rest is still a mess. Tip 3, I just want one part of my house to feel good. I think we all secretly want a space like this, don't we? A room that isn't for hosting or folding laundry or catching everyone's clutter. Just one space that's yours where you can breathe and feel like yourself again. This next tip is a good one, and honestly, it's something I think every woman deserves a spot in the house that's just for you. Because sometimes the chaos feels too big to fix all at once. Every room has a pile, every surface has something on it, and you're trying to declutter in 5 different places at the same time, hoping it'll eventually come together. But what usually happens? You end up with 5 half-done areas and 0 peace of mind. Here's the shift pick. Just one room. Don't dabble, commit to making that one space feel beautiful, functional, and peaceful. For many women, that room is the bedroom. It's the first place you see in the morning, and the last thing your eyes land on before sleep. When I did this, I started with our master bedroom. I cleared the nightstand, moved the laundry basket, and finally let go of the chair that held all the clothes. I added a soft lamp, a small tray. Nothing fancy, just calm. Now, even when the kitchen's a mess or the hallway's full of backpacks, I know I have one place that's just for breathing. So if your house feels like too much right now, start smaller. Pick your calm zone and protect it. Let it be your daily reset. In the next tip, we'll zoom in even more down to the tiny things that quietly drive us nuts and how to finally fix them. Tip 4. Fix one tiny thing that annoys you every day. Here's a quick rule that might surprise you, but it changes everything. If something bugs you every single day, it deserves attention. After the big clutter is gone, you'll start to notice the little friction points. A basket that's too deep, a drawer that always jams, that random pile that lives on your entryway bench. Don't ignore it. Don't tell yourself it's too small to bother with. Here's the tip pick. One tiny thing that bothers you and fix it today. Not a full room, not a total system, just one small change that makes something easier. For me, it was our laundry system. I hated digging to the bottom of a deep hamper, so I switched to 3 smaller baskets and got them off the floor. Now laundry flows better and I don't dread it anymore. Another day, it was my spice jars. I finally replaced the mismatched lids and cleared out the ones I never used. It took 15 minutes and it made dinner way less frustrating. So go look around. What tiny thing do you mutter about every time you use it? That's your target. Fixing one little annoyance can free up more mental energy than you think, and it creates real momentum for what comes next. Next, let's talk about the stuff that's not just inconvenient, but emotionally heavy. Tip 5. Let go of items tied to painful memories. Here's a decluttering tip people don't talk about enough, but it might be the one you need most. Some things in our homes don't just take up space, they hold stories. And not all of those stories are good. Maybe it's something you inherited but never liked. Maybe it's tied to a person, a season, or a memory that still stings. And every time you see it, it brings up something heavy: regret, shame, sadness, pressure. So here's the tip. If an item in your home makes you feel worse every time you see it, you have permission to let it go. Yes, even if it was passed down. Yes, even if someone told you to keep it in the family. Yes, even if no one else has one like it. You don't have to carry emotional pain in the form of furniture, fabric, or things in a dusty box. You can keep the memory, you can keep the love, but you don't have to keep the object. I had to learn this myself. There was something in my house that was technically important, but every time I looked at it, I felt small and stuck, like I was 20 years old again, doubting myself all over. Letting it go wasn't about throwing away the past, it was about choosing how I want to feel today. So if something in your home is wrapped in emotional noise, you don't have to face it all at once, but you can start. You can release one thing, one weight, one whisper from the past, and that alone can create space for something much lighter. Up next, we'll come back to something a little simpler and definitely more visual, a tip that helps your progress look as real as it feels. Tip 6. Create one corner that sparks joy, not just calm. Let it reflect your style, not your chores. This tip isn't about function. It's not about organizing. It's about reminding yourself that you're allowed to enjoy your home, not just manage it. Pick one little corner. It could be your entryway, a bookshelf, your bathroom counter. And instead of asking, how can I make this efficient? Ask, how can I make this feel like me? Add color, add texture, add something quirky or nostalgic. Maybe it's a framed quote that makes you laugh. Maybe it's your favorite candle or a little bowl for jewelry that actually makes you smile. For me, it was the corner of our hallway. I added a thrifted mirror, a tiny plant I actually remember to water, and a print from an artist I love. It's not useful, but it lifts me every time I walk past. Because beauty doesn't have to be big or expensive, it just has to be yours. So if your whole house feels heavy, start by claiming one little corner that feels like freedom. Up next, we'll talk about clutter you can't see but definitely feel the stuff that hides behind just in case. Tip 7. Don't let just in case take over your space. You know the stuff, that extra coffee maker just in case one breaks. The stack of takeout containers you might reuse. The sweaters you haven't worn in years. But what if, here's the truth just in case, is how clutter disguises itself as being responsible. So here's the tip. If you haven't used it in the last year and you're only keeping it because of a hypothetical situation, then let it go. There's a difference between being prepared and being buried. And most of the time, if you really did need that thing again, you could borrow it, improvise, or replace it without too much stress. I used to keep every empty jar, every storage bin, every cheap kitchen gadget because you never know, right? Until one day, I realized I was spending more time organizing my backup stuff than using the things I actually love. So now my rule is this: if future me needs it that badly, she'll figure it out. Present me deserves less clutter and more peace. Let go of the backup blender, let go of the clothes that almost fit. Trust that you'll know what to do if that just in case day ever actually comes. Coming up next, we'll flip this idea around and talk about what it means to keep things that reflect your future self, not your past. Tip 8, keep what matches the life you want now. Here's a really good rule to check your stuff against. Does this reflect who I am today or just who I used to be? Because sometimes clutter doesn't come from junk. It comes from things that used to fit, used to be your style, used to serve a season that's no longer yours. So here's the tip when you're decluttering. Don't just ask, do I use this? Ask, is this still me? I found a box once labeled office supplies that hadn't been opened in 5 years. Inside were things from a job I'd left, a version of me I didn't even recognize anymore. And keeping it wasn't making me more prepared, it was keeping me stuck. Same with clothes. If you're saving that blazer because I might go back to that kind of job, but deep down, you know that version of life doesn't excite you anymore. You're allowed to let it go. You're not failing by releasing things that belong to an old season. You're making space for what fits now. So when you're decluttering today, pay attention to what feels like you. Now, not you 10 years ago, not you 20 pounds ago, not you in a role you've already outgrown. Next, we'll get into a super helpful mindset shift for those moments when you feel bad about spending money on something you never used. Tip 9. A bad purchase doesn't deserve a permanent spot in your home. Let's end with a tip that's equal parts practical and freeing. We've all done it. You bought something with good intentions, a juicer, a planner, a fancy dress, and now it's just sitting there, unused, quietly judging you every time you see it. You might think I can't get rid of it. It was expensive, but here's the truth: keeping it doesn't get your money back. It just keeps the regret alive. So here's the tip: when you see something you regret buying, don't punish yourself by keeping it. Say, that was a lesson, not a life sentence. Let it go and take the wisdom, not the weight with you. I once held on to a blender I never used because it cost too much. It sat on my counter, stressed me out, and made me feel bad every time I looked at it. Until one day I donated it and felt lighter instantly. Now I remind myself I didn't waste money. I spent money to learn what doesn't work for me. And honestly, that mindset has saved me so much more in the long run. So if there's something in your house you're only keeping because you feel bad about it, you've already paid once. You don't need to keep paying with your peace. And that's really what all of this comes down to. Letting go not just of stuff, but of pressure, of guilt, of things that no longer serve the life you're building. I hope at least one of these tips helped you feel a little more in control today and a little less alone in the mess. Thanks for being here with me today. Decluttering can feel like a lot, not just physically, but emotionally too. But if even one of these tips gave you a little clarity or helped you breathe easier in your space, then it's already worth it. And remember, you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to get it perfect. You're allowed to go slow and still be making progress. I'll be back tomorrow with some simple, useful home tricks that just make life easier. No pressure, just ideas. But for now, I hope you leave this video feeling a little lighter. You've got this, and I'm really glad you're here.